Hello everyone, and welcome to the Women's Network Mindfulness webinar. I'm Alison Prideaux, broadcasting from the south of France. Lois Shannon's noble vision is to help us to know what it is to be a woman in the 21st century. And in order to know that, we need to be connected with ourselves. And to connect with ourselves, we need to be present. So one of the best ways, one of the most effective ways of being present to ourselves is through mindfulness practice. Lois is an enthusiastic mindfulness practitioner, as are about half of her wise women advisors. And so we're bringing you some mindfulness teaching. There are some free meditations to enjoy online. And we have a support community to help us to keep going with a mindfulness practice, living a mindful life. And we're here to support each other. Sharing and caring is what we're good at. So today I'm going to guide us through just a couple of minutes of meditation to help us land, and then talk to you about mindfulness, what it is, what it isn't, how it relates to the inner light information and articles that has been shared on the Women's Network this last few weeks. I will guide us through a 20-minute body scan meditation, and then there'll be time for some questions. So before we start, I'd like to walk you through the webinar page here. It's quite a simple program, and over on the sidebar, you can see there's a chat tab. So if you click on that, you can say hello. I love to see that you're there. And next but one is a polls tab. And so I can ask you a question, like, are you a regular meditator? And you can say yes or no. And it's a way of us connecting. And I know I'm not speaking into a void. And it's especially nice to see your comments, to see you say hello, to ask a question, to participate in the polls. Right, so if we're ready, we can start with just a couple of minutes of mindfulness meditation. I'll guide us through, and you can sit however you're sitting, and if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. Coming into the moment by feeling our contact with the chair, coming into the body is one of the best ways of coming into the moment. Feeling the physical sensations in the body, sensing the body rather than thinking about it. Maybe aware of the feelings in our feet and our hands. Noticing the detail, being curious and interested. We can come home to the self. We can land. And once we've landed, however imperfectly, we take a moment to notice how we're feeling. What's the mood of the moment as we transition into the webinar? Acknowledging what's there, not trying to create a state of calm or peace, but actually noticing what's really there. How are we actually feeling right now? Maybe there are some different layers. Maybe it's nuanced. Our emotions of the moment. And as best we can, accepting what we find. Connecting with our truth of this moment. Allowing ourselves to be as we are. And just another breath or two in the moment. Feeling the air flowing. Experiencing the moment as it is. With kindness and acceptance. And when we're ready, opening our eyes and noticing that transition too. Mindfulness is about being in the present moment and being here kindly. And being here kindly means that we set aside our judging mind. You might have noticed that the mind is constantly suggesting improvements or making comments or criticizing, basically not allowing things to be as they are. And so by meditating regularly, we practice being in the present moment and we practice being here kindly, putting aside judgment. And I'd like to know how many meditators we have. Are you a regular meditator? Maybe you'd like to put your yes or no into the whole tab on the side. And mindfulness meditation doesn't require that we stop our thoughts. The mind will naturally keep itself busy. It's just a question of changing our relationship with our thoughts. And in that way, we become free of the illusion and the tyranny of our thoughts, and we can be in the present moment, even when we have a busy mind. So you might have noticed that during that short meditation, there was times when your mind wandered off, but we can develop the capacity to come back regularly to the present moment and just let the thoughts go or let them be as they are and not engage with them and not take them too seriously. We spend a certain amount of time practicing coming into the present moment, and we notice that we can change our relationship with our thoughts, which brings us a certain amount of freedom. Let's see in the poll. We have 50% of our viewers are meditators, and I know that there are a number of different ways of meditating, Mindfulness is not about creating any kind of altered state. It's not visualization, and it doesn't guarantee that we're going to be in bliss all the time. But it does guarantee that we develop a better connection with the moment and with ourselves. And it's about being aware of what's going on and accepting what we find. Now, I believe that it's quite a common condition for modern women to feel overwhelmed and harried, feeling that there's a lot to do, not enough time, and constantly chasing our tails, and feeling sometimes as though we're on a hamster wheel and we just need the world to stop so that we can get off. And then at other times, we might be equally as busy and our list may be just as long, but somehow we feel that we can cope, that we're thinking clearly, that we can prioritize. And even if there's a lot of plates spinning, we feel, okay, I can cope, bring it on. And what's the difference between one state where we're feeling overwhelmed and another where we're coping and we're taking on the list and the challenges of being a busy woman, a busy mother? I would suggest that it's not always a question of external circumstances. It doesn't always depend on whether your list is long or not. It can depend more on our state of mind. And with mindfulness practice, we tend to feel that we can cope more often. So we tend to feel better more frequently. And it's through moving towards the difficult that we step into a frame of mind where we feel that we can cope. And this might be asking us to run before we can walk. We usually come to this subject of embracing the difficult halfway through an 8-week course. So we've already practiced a certain amount of in the present moment and connecting with what's going on. When it comes to being with the difficult, when we move towards it, we're actually picking up the detail of that discomfort. And so say we are feeling harried and overwhelmed. As we move towards that feeling with interest and we're studying how our body feels, we might notice that our shoulders are tense, that we're frowning, that there's a tension in our stomach. And as we explore with interest and with kindness, we get to connect with really what's there. And it's this exploring and connection that gives us a sense of being with the truth. And once we've had the courage to move towards and we can pick up the detail of that feeling and we're daring to feel it rather than running away, there's something very beautiful about connecting. And it doesn't matter whether we're connecting with something beautiful or something difficult. And somewhere in that darkness, the clarity of the view is such that it generates a lighter way of being. And there can be some light in the darkness. And this is where this exploration of mindfulness and embracing the difficult relates to the previous blogs this last few weeks about finding our inner light. Because when we look, sometimes we are experiencing our inner light and everything is shiny. And other times there is no light and all we're seeing is the difficult, the overwhelmed, or the sadness, or the anxiety, or depression. And what do we do then? Well, we move towards in the way that I've described. And obviously it takes some practice and it takes some courage, but we're all capable of doing that. We're all capable of being in the present moment with the difficult. And once we're there, there's some beautiful clarity which can bring some light into the darkness. And while with mindfulness practice, we don't attach to goals and outcomes. We're not here to fix. We're here to really experience anything that's going on. So we have to go about this with the genuine intention to be with the difficult, not conditionally on whether it actually lightens up or not. And so, yes, there are many examples in classes where where some of the participants are maybe feeling particularly sad. There's one woman whose relationship broke up, and she was bereft with a great sense of loss and sadness, and kept very busy seeing people and doing her yoga and being brave and really trying not to feel the sadness. And it wasn't until she decided to really embrace the sadness with this same view of entering into the detail that she found some sweetness there amongst the sadness, and she was allowed herself to be with it. She was able to be with it, and said it was very liberating. And so this can happen with many difficult circumstances. Moving towards in a mindful way enables us to really be with whatever life throws at us. And talking about being present, I might say mindfulness is present moment awareness. And if you speak English, you will understand what that means. We know what those words mean. However, if you're a regular meditator, as half of our listeners are today, then you will probably have experienced present moment awareness on a regular basis. And so when I say those words, you will have a better connection. You'll have a deeper connection with what that really means. It won't just be an intellectual understanding. It will be something that you know in a felt sense. And so describing what mindfulness is useful because it can inspire people to practice, but it's really only through practicing that we know what these words mean. And when we talk about acceptance, it's not just a concept, it's a felt experience. And so I encourage you later on when we do the body scan meditation lying down, that you participate, take the opportunity to be there and follow the guidance. On a virtual webinar, it's tempting to go and have a cup of tea, but in order to really experience mindfulness, then it's important to do it, to practice. So it's simple. The idea is simple, to be in the present moment, and yet it's not easy. We have a busy mind that's jumping around often. We call it the monkey mind. And I don't know how many of you have experienced having a monkey mind. We can put that in the poll as well. Do you consider that you have a monkey mind? Some people think they can't meditate because their mind is too busy. And in fact, as I've said before, we can study mindfulness and be with the present moment, even with our busy minds. I was doing a presentation for the European Professional Women's Network, and I asked about the monkey minds. And oh yes, they had monkeys on Red Bull and double espresso. And then somebody said, what, only one monkey? So you're not alone if you have a busy mind. And it seems that we've overemphasized the use of the intellect. And while it's a very useful tool, it's one of the extraordinary things about being human is that we have the capacity to analyze, to think, to compare, and yet we overuse the intellect and we underuse the feeling senses, which really connect us with the present moment. And we need both. The thinking mind is to do with doing, and the being connected with the senses is to do with being, and we need both. And if we find that we're constantly in our doing mind and overthinking everything, then it serves us well to practice mindfulness meditation and connect with our bodies and our emotions, the moment, and enter a state of being. So when we're feeling overwhelmed and that there's too much to do, we actually are in a state of feeling threatened. And when we're in that condition, the mind is operating in a certain way. The part of the limbic system called the amygdala is active, and it's stimulating the production of adrenaline and cortisol in the body. And when we're in that state, we're in a state of emergency, and we're actually not thinking very broadly. Our concern is really survival. And when we're in that state, not only can it degrade our health, but also it narrows our thinking to the point where we don't see possibilities and we don't see solutions. And just by noticing our bodies, coming into the moment, noticing our breath, noticing, as I've described, where that difficulty is manifesting in the body, we can completely change the way that the brain behaves. And the activity moves away from those centers of fight and flight into what's called the left prefrontal cortex, which is up here, behind the forehead. And when we're operating from here, we see the world as a friendly place. We see opportunities, we can imagine solutions. We are capable of experiencing joy and hope, and it's generally a very positive place to be. And so it's literally through feeling into the body, acknowledging what's there, moving towards our experience, which changes this behavior, changes the activity in the brain from the centers of fight and flight into the left prefrontal cortex, where we have that feeling of, okay, bring it on. And I think we've all felt that. And so it takes practice. And as I've said, it's available to everyone. It's not necessarily easy. We need to keep going. And as we do, we build new neurons. And in just 8 weeks, it's been shown by MRI scan that the brain actually changes shape. We grow new neural substrate in the good part, in the part of our brain that helps us to feel that we can cope. Great. So it might feel as though being asked to embrace another job is a little bit overwhelming. It might add to that sense of too much to do. You know, I've already got so much on my list. Don't ask me to learn another technique. And while mindfulness meditation does take some practice, it takes some discipline and effort to start with. After a while, time seems to change shape and we have more time, we feel less rushed, and we seem to be able to prioritize, and life actually gets easier. So while it takes some practice, there is a sense of gentleness, and we sort of ease ourselves into living a mindful life. And there have been several young women on my courses who initially thought, I'm never going to find the time to practice. And then they were so glad that they did. There's one young woman who set her alarm clock early in the morning, and then before she came home from work at night, she stopped a kilometre away from home and studied for practice for 10 minutes in the car before getting home, and found these little slots where she could do some formal mindfulness practice. And she said that she's never looked back, and it's created a great sense of ease for herself and for her family. And that story has been repeated over and over. There was somebody else who said she was too busy in the morning, and when she got home at night, there was the demands of the household. So she used to lie under her desk at work. She'd close the door and lie under her desk and practice her body scan before going home. And that all worked very well until Friday night, when she nearly got locked in. So she would have been doing a very long body scan all weekend. So there are ways that we can find the time to practice, and then it brings more benefit. It brings it's a good investment of time and energy, even if we think that we can't possibly fit it in. I'm going to guide us in a meditation, a body scan meditation. And before I do so, I'm just wondering whether we have an audience of people who feel as though they're harried and overwhelmed. Are you busy? Are you sort of threatened by your very own list of all the things there are to do? And you can put your answer in the poll and know perhaps that you're not alone if you're feeling that life at times is a bit too much. For the body scan meditation, it's nice to be able to lie in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. If you need to prop up your knees, if you have a sore back, make sure that you're being kind to yourself and you're as comfortable as possible. It's a good idea to stay awake, so not too comfortable, but this will be about 20 minutes. And it's a simple way of paying attention to the body, entering the present moment. And there's a slight visualization aspect in as much as I'm going to invite you to imagine that you're breathing into the different parts of your body. And if you can visualize that, that's great. If you can't, it doesn't matter. Good, so I'm going to do this sitting. I follow through in the same way as I'm sitting. And if you're lying comfortably, then we can begin. So closing our eyes, for the body scan meditation. Coming into the moment through the physical feelings of lying down. Becoming aware of your contact with the floor, with the sofa or the bed, wherever you're lying. And if you haven't settled down yet, I encourage you to do so, taking the opportunity to experience a mindfulness body scan. Noticing how it feels to be supported from underneath. Scanning through the places of contact, of pressure. Perhaps aware of the backs of the legs, the backside, the shoulders, and the back of the head in contact with the mat. Coming into the body and knowing there's no perfect way to meditate. Just the fact that you're engaging means that you're doing something good for yourself. And we just pay attention as best we can, bringing the mind back when it wanders, and being as kind and calm, kind and compassionate with ourselves as we can. And taking the opportunity to notice a few breaths. Perhaps it feels different, breathing when we're lying down, and the way it did when we were sitting. Following the breath, allowing the body to breathe naturally. Feeling perhaps the movement in the rib cage, the flow of air as it enters and leaves the body. And with our intention of paying attention kindly, we focus gently on both feet, scanning through the toes to start with, and noticing any physical sensations present. Perhaps we're aware of the toes touching, the temperature of the air, the touch of a sock. We are interested in feeling the feet rather than thinking about them. And scanning through the soles of the feet, perhaps feeling where the heel is pressing on the mat, the top of the feet, and including the ankle. Exploring with kindly curiosity and picking up any physical sensations present. There may be tingling, touch, temperature, numbness. There may be nothing at all, and that's fine too. Bringing the mind back when it wanders and noticing the feet. And on the next natural in-breath, we imagine the air passing down from the lungs, through our body, down our legs, into the feet, filling the feet with our imaginary in-breath, and releasing as we breathe out, the air flowing back up the body and out of the lungs in the normal way. Letting go of the feet and taking our attention to both lower legs, aware perhaps of the calves resting on the mat, scanning through the shins. Maybe there's a sense of contact with clothes, and including the knees, the kneecaps at the front, the joint inside, inhabiting this part of the body, noticing what's there, kindly bringing the mind back when it wanders. Being curious. In this way, we practice moving towards our physical experience. And then as we breathe in, we imagine the air passing down into both lower legs, and then emptying as we breathe out, and sliding our attention into both thighs, aware of the physical sensations, the front of the thighs, the back, the inside, the outside, feeling the skin on the surface, maybe aware of the flesh and the bone inside, noticing if there's any heaviness, which parts are pressing more than others. Exploring with kindly curiosity and connecting with the physical sensations in the body. And then on the next natural in-breath, imagine breathing down, filling both legs, all the parts that we have scanned. As we breathe out, we imagine the air flowing back up, out of the body in the normal way, and we take our attention to the hips, to the back side resting on the mat. Exploring the physical sensations in the pelvis, noticing what's there. Being kind and gentle, acknowledging what we find, any areas of warmth or pressure or touch, experiencing this part of the body through the senses. And then the next time we breathe in, we imagine filling the pelvis with our in-breath, emptying on the out-breath, letting go, and inviting our attention to the lower back, the waist, and the belly. And here perhaps we might feel a gentle movement generated by the breath. The slight filling and emptying as the body breathes naturally. You may be aware of the touch of our waistband, and gradually moving our attention up through the torso, up through the chest, up the back, feeling the contact with the mat, feeling where our shoulder blades are resting, and all the way into the collarbones and the shoulders. What can be felt? And are we bringing our mind back kindly? Noticing any places of tension, any tight spots. Noticing if there's a sense of holding or ease. And being with the torso, with the shoulders, observing the gentle movement of the breath, and realizing that by Observing in this way, we are taking the position of the witness. The witness with a kindly view, interested to experience whatever is there. And the next time we breathe in, we imagine filling the whole of the torso with the inhalation, emptying as we exhale, letting go, and inviting our attention to both hands, to the fingers and thumbs, noticing in particular the tips of the fingers and thumbs. Maybe there's a sense of tingling, warmth, coolness, the texture of whatever they're touching, or the sense of the temperature of the air. Exploring through the fingers, the palms of the hands, the backs of the hands, and the wrists. Being in the hands, allowing whatever is there to be there, being interested, being curious. And then breathing into both hands in an imaginary way. Breathing out, we imagine the air passing back up the arms, out of the body, letting them go, and sliding our attention through the forearms, the elbows, and the upper arms. Aware perhaps of places of contact, the touch of clothes, the weight of the arms where they're lying. Experiencing this through the senses, observing kindly, knowing it's quite normal for the mind to wander, and coming back as soon as we notice that we have drifted off. And then on the next in-breath, we imagine breathing down, filling both arms all the way down to the tips of the fingers. Filling our arms with the imaginary breath and our awareness. And then as we breathe out, we imagine emptying the arms and hands, letting go, and taking attention to the neck and throat. Maybe aware of air passing in the throat, sliding attention up through the back of the scalp, through the place where the head is resting, feeling that area of pressure. sliding attention up through the back of the head, over the crown of the head, around the ears themselves, and continuing forwards through the roots of the hair and down through the forehead, around the eyes themselves, picking up any places of holding or tension and just noticing, not judging, but just connecting with what's there with interest. And continuing down through the face, the cheeks, the mouth, the chin and jaw. And maybe feeling the air passing in the nostrils. Connecting with the feelings in the face and head. And noticing what's that's like. To be in there and feeling it. Observing as if from the inside. And then when we breathe in, we imagine filling the head and face. Emptying as we breathe out. Letting go. And then breathing into the whole of the body, all the parts that we have scanned. Filling the body with our breath in an imaginary way and with our attention. And then as we breathe out, we let go. And we do this one more time. Breathing into the body. Letting go as we breathe out. And then allowing ourselves a few moments of being present in mindful awareness. A moment to be with ourselves and allow things to be exactly the way they are. And when we're ready, opening our eyes. And you might like to have a little yawn and stretch. So well done. And I'm interested to see that 100% of you on the poll say that you often feel overwhelmed. And I'm wondering whether after a body scan, you're feeling maybe slightly less overwhelmed. So it's an interesting thing to explore. And as we do tend to be fairly tough on ourselves, it follows that if we're constantly saying, I could be a more efficient employee, I could be a more attentive mother, I could be a more caring partner, if we're peppering ourselves with these suggestions and comments and improvements all the time, then we're not allowing ourselves to be really who we are. And how do we sort out what really is our heart's desire and what is an expectation of society or our family or our loved ones? And how can we know what it is to be a woman in the 21st century if we can't connect with our true selves? And we have a trouble doing that if we're forever suggesting that we should be different or better. And so it's through allowing ourselves to have this gentle acceptance of who we are that brings us into a place where we're authentic, and all of us blossom when we're really being truly who we are, and we are in touch with ourselves, and we can be in touch with our life's purpose. And then it helps other people to be in touch with who they really are. And so I feel that it's absolutely fundamental for us to connect in an authentic way with ourselves, in a kind way, in order to show up fully in the world and shine our light and make our contribution. And being kind and gentle with ourselves doesn't mean that we're overindulgent or we give up being effective or productive. It means that from this place of deep knowing, we actually become more productive, more creative, full of more sense of coping and more possibilities and more solution finding. And so rather than ending up doing less, we end up doing much more, but with a greater sense of ease. And so really mindfulness practice is completely in harmony with the goals and aspirations of the Women's Network to show up fully as ourselves, and who knows what changes we can bring about and what we have to offer when we're coming from that place of knowing and enthusiasm, the enthusiasm that comes from that place of knowing. And so I'd like to read you a poem, and this is about acknowledging who we are, and it comes up in week 6 of the 8-week course, which is the standard way that mindfulness is taught. And there's many a tear when we read this poem, and it's about really acknowledging who we are, remembering that we always knew who we were, we just need to come back. It's called Love After Love. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, and in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Heal your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. And that's by Derek Walcott, Sea Grapes, 1976. And John Williams, who has written some of the most respected work on cognitive therapy and mindfulness, he says that if we're only present for part of our lives, if we're busy thinking about the future, concerned with the past, then we only have a certain amount of life to live because we're not there very often. But if we're there more often, showing up as we are, then in his words, we actually increase our longevity. And so now I see we only have a few minutes left, and I'd like to let you know that the Women's Network will be providing an 8-week mindfulness course online starting in September, and there's a special offer price for those who sign up before August, and it's €375 for the early bird, and we look forward to meeting every week online for 8 weeks starting in September. It'll be a 2-hour lesson, and we finish with a longer workshop. There's regular home practice, because patterns of a lifetime don't change overnight. It takes some regular practice, and we're using a really wonderful platform where everybody can see each other. It's like being in a class, and it's a wonderful way of learning. There's support, there's guidance, there are downloads of printed material and recordings for you to follow to do your own home practice meditations. And there's more information on the website. Kenya, wonderful administration creator, video maker, is there to give you any information that you require. And there's, as I say, there's more to be seen on the website. So I'm wondering if there are any questions as we come towards the end. Please feel free to type in the chat window there. And as we close, we're going to show you the mindfulness video from the Women's Network website, and looking forward to really sharing some very special time with you online. And who knows how compassionate we can be as we embark on mindfulness practice, or how much strength that we can find in the face of difficulty. And it's just a wonderful journey. It's a lifetime's journey. Although big changes happen in 8 weeks, it's really a question of making it our lifestyle, making it a way of life. And in order to do that, it's really handy to have support, because it's easy to fall off the practice, fall off the wagon. But if we're here as a community, and we're here to hold each other's hand and buddy up and share and care, then together we can keep up a mindful lifestyle. And it's particularly important for those of you who are mothers. It's a wonderful way of embodying a mindful state, and that communicates automatically to our children. And there is more mindfulness taught in schools, but why wait until it's there? If you're present, if you're mindfully accepting of yourself and others, then you're automatically communicating a mindful way of being to your family. I'm just going back on the chat window to see if there are any questions. And so the price is in dollars for the course, and there we are. It's been wonderful to be here and share with you. We're going to have more broadcasts after each few weeks, and I'm hoping to be able to share with you more of the aspects of mindfulness. Today we've talked about, I think, something that's quite common for women to experience: overwhelm, how to move towards the difficult, how mindfulness is taught, and there's so many fascinating things to share. But the magic is in the practice, and so if it's the right time for you, I suggest that you sign up for a course and really delve deeply into how it can feel to be fully present and live a mindful life. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Oh, Lauren has asked, is the course the same time each week? Yes, it's going to be on a Sunday morning, your time. I'm in Europe, and there will be a 2-hour slot every week, and then the full day workshop will be your time. It'll be 9 in the morning until 3 p.m. And if there are any more questions, please contact us on the website. So thank you for being here, and I'm now going to allow you to see the mindfulness video. Have a mindful day, and a happy Father's Day.
What I think mindfulness means like alert and conscious. I just sort of think of it like that.
With so many demands on us and our time, we get kind of driven, and we add to this by being our own worst critic. We work hard to be better employees, mothers, partners, and all the time we feel we could do more. We've worked on our souls and our bodies and our minds, and still we're not at peace in our hearts. We still judge ourselves as being not quite enough. By retraining our minds to be attentive and to be on our own side, that's the flavor of mindfulness. And with regular meditation practice, we allow ourselves to move into a happy place of what I call coping and clever. And we can leave overwhelm and anxiety behind. And that may all sound utopian, but there's a very good reason why mindfulness is kind of exploding in the West. It's because it works, and it allows us to move through our lives gracefully. A mother's primary wish is that her children will be happy, and what better way to facilitate this than being a shining example of just that? A mother who feels good about herself, who's coping, a mother who has time, who's present. Together, everything's possible, so join us for a mindfulness session at the Women's Network and embark on this exciting journey of discovery, and then we'll see what's possible when we come together in this way, in mutual support.